During World War I, the British Empire relied heavily on India. Millions of Indian soldiers and laborers deployed overseas, funneling vast amounts of food, money, and ammunition to the trenches of Europe and the Middle East. In return for this massive sacrifice, Indian leaders and citizens expected a reward. They believed their loyalty and staggering casualty rates would finally convince the British government to grant them substantial political reform and self-governance. Instead, the Imperial Legislative Council passed the Rowlatt Act in early 1919. This law extended emergency wartime powers into peacetime, severely restricting civil liberties, muzzling the press, and allowing authorities to imprison any suspected political dissident indefinitely without trial. The reaction was immediate and fierce. Nationwide protests erupted, and a young Mahatma Gandhi emerged as an influential leader, calling on the masses to refuse obedience to the new laws through a campaign of non-violent civil disobedience. The legislation fractured the trust between Britain and its colonial subjects. A populace that had spent years voluntarily aiding the British war effort was now actively resisting the crown, transforming the subcontinent into a volatile environment. Within the British administration, particularly in the Punjab region, paranoia set in. Officials like Lieutenant Governor Michael O'Dwyer became convinced these protests were the early stages of a coordinated armed revolt, similar to the 1857 rebellion. On April 10, 1919, the local administration in Amritsar made a sudden, secret move. They arrested and deported two popular local leaders of the independence movement, Saifuddin Kichlu and Satyapal. Crowds gathered to peacefully demand the release of the two men. A military picket fired on the protesters, killing several, and the situation instantly collapsed into chaos. Rioters retaliated by burning British banks, assaulting European civilians, and killing 5 British citizens. By April 11th, civil authorities essentially handed control of the city over to the military. Brigadier General Reginald Dyer arrived in Amritsar, bringing with him Gurkha and Sikh infantrymen to restore order. Dyer banned all public gatherings of 4 or more people. The city was no longer under civilian law enforcement. It was now under a strict, aggressive martial occupation. Sunday, April 13th, was Baisakhi, a major traditional harvest festival. Throughout the day, an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 unarmed farmers, pilgrims, and peaceful protesters gathered inside a public area known as Jallianwala Bagh. This map shows the enclosed layout of the bog. It had a fatal flaw. Only 5 extremely narrow alleyways led out. At 5:30 p.m., General Dyer arrived. Unable to fit his armored cars inside, his 50 troops completely blocked the widest main entrance. Because of the tall enclosing walls and the troops sealing the only viable exit, the tens of thousands of people inside were physically caged. Dyer did not issue a warning or ask the crowd to disperse. He positioned his men and immediately ordered them to open fire, directing the shooting toward the densest sections of the terrified crowd. For 10 agonizing minutes, the soldiers reloaded and fired. They only stopped when their ammunition was nearly depleted. In total, they fired exactly 1,650 rounds into the trapped civilians. Panic consumed the bog. People were crushed in stampedes as they surged desperately toward the narrow, impassable gates. Others chose to leap into the compound's large solitary well, drowning in a futile attempt to escape the barrage of bullets. Hundreds lay dead, and over 1,000 were severely injured. Because Dyer imposed a strict curfew, families could not enter the bog to retrieve loved ones, leaving hundreds of wounded to bleed to death overnight in the dirt. This was a calculated, state-sanctioned execution of civilians who had no way to fight back. In the days following the massacre, Dyer authorized further collective punishment. He instituted the crawling order, forcing any Indian man passing through the street where a British missionary had previously been assaulted to crawl its entire length on his hands and knees. Months later, public pressure forced the British government of India to establish the Hunter Commission to officially investigate the disturbances in the Punjab. When called to testify, Dyer was entirely unremorseful. He admitted he likely could have dispersed the crowd peacefully, but chose to shoot to punish the Indians for disobedience. His stated goal was to produce a sufficient moral effect and strike terror throughout the region. The testimony horrified many in London. During a debate in the House of Commons, Secretary of State for War Winston Churchill vehemently condemned the attack, calling it utterly monstrous. Yet the British legal and military bureaucracy shielded Dyer. He faced no criminal prosecution. He was simply relieved of his command and allowed to retire. Many British citizens even hailed him as the savior of the Punjab, raising a massive financial fund for his retirement. For the Indian public, the lack of meaningful accountability sent a devastatingly clear message. Under the framework of British colonial law, Indian lives held absolutely no value. The cultural backlash was absolute. Upon hearing the details, the globally renowned poet Rabindranath Tagore immediately wrote to the Viceroy to renounce his British knighthood in disgust, stating, "The badges of honor made their shame glaring in a context of humiliation." The massacre also cemented a pivot in Mahatma Gandhi's strategy. He abandoned requests for basic rights within the empire and launched the massive non-cooperation movement, aiming to completely dismantle British economic and political control. For others, the response was more violent. Udham Singh, an Indian independence activist who witnessed the events at Amritsar, spent 21 years tracking Michael O'Dwyer, the colonial official who had explicitly approved Dyer's actions. In March 1940, Singh shot and killed O'Dwyer inside a hall in London. During his trial, Singh stated it was his duty to crush the man who had tried to crush the spirit of his people. Today, the trauma of 1919 remains physically etched into Amritsar. The bullet holes from Dyer's troops are still preserved on the brick walls surrounding the bog. In the center of the modern park, a towering red stone martyrs memorial honors the hundreds of men, women, and children who were executed in the enclosed garden. General Dyer fired 1,650 rounds into that crowd to crush Indian defiance. Instead, the massacre shattered the moral authority of the British Empire, uniting the subcontinent and guaranteeing India's eventual independence.
To watch more interesting videos like this, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video as widely as possible. Thank you.